Hello everyone, this is Raja Ramesh and welcome back to TypeScript and Playwright Journey. In the previous video, we have learned about what are functions and how to create a basic function. In this video, we will learn about a function which accepts some parameters and how to define a function which returns some values also. First, we will see about functions with parameters. Go to your Visual Studio Code and just comment the calling line of greet function. So now let us consider you have a requirement. You need to perform some action using some lines of code in your application and you have to pass different values whenever you want to that lines of code based on your requirement. For example, if we take the greet method itself, if it is like something greeting a user who logs into system, if you observe some websites, when we log in, we see hello, the user logged in. For example, if Raja is logging into a web application, we see some message after login like hello Raja. So there, the function which is actually is responsible to print that message is accepting some parameter, the username who logged in. In order to do that, user needs to pass some value to the function. That can be done using parameters. Let us see that. Let's create a new function using keyword function and instead of just greet, call this as greet user and the body of the function. And if you remember, this is the place where we write the parameters. All right. So here I will be taking a variable called name and is of type string. Got it? So this is a function greet user which is accepting one parameter of type string. So whenever a user calls this function, they have to provide one argument as well. Okay, they have to call this with one string. And inside the function, we just simply write a console log statement, console.log hello and name, so that we will be greeting the user whoever logs in, that kind of function. Now whenever we call this function, we using the name, and if you see, because your function has some parameter defined and you are not passing any value while calling this, we will get some error like this. So the argument for name was not provided. Okay, so we don't have any method which is not accepting any parameter, and with the name greet user we have one argument called name and that is not provided, and that is suggesting there. So we have to provide a value over here like Raja. Now the error is gone, and if we run this, what happens is greet user will be called and this string is passed to this place and is assigned to the variable name, and that name value will be used inside the function logic. Okay, in fact the parameters are making functions more powerful also. Right, so if you clear the console and execute this again, you see greet user hello and Raja. And if you call this with other value hello and Ramesh, and if you run this again, you will see two lines hello Raja and hello Ramesh. So this is how we pass parameters to a function. And remember, it's not mandatory to pass a single parameter always, or it's not something like you have to pass only strings. It's based on your requirement and you can pass any number of parameters and whatever the data type you want. Got it? Let us see some other example of function which accepts two parameters, say. And instead of greet, let us add two numbers in a function. So for that, I have to take two parameters of type number a comma b. Okay, so sorry, this one a comma b. Now we have a function called add and which is accepting two parameters. One is a and b. Of course, don't think like the name should be a or b like that only. This is kind of some placeholder. That's all. Whatever the name you want, you can give based on your requirement and try to give meaningful names. Of course, here it should be something like number one and number two, like that. Okay, and in the method body, you can write a console statement, console dot log, and you can simply print a plus b. Okay, so now you have a function called add, and it is doing addition on those two numbers and printing on the console. If you call that by the name add and 10 comma 5, okay, 10 will be passed to A, 5 will be passed to B, and while computing, those values will be considered. If you run this, clear and run this, you see 15. To be more clear with output, if you want, you can place something like this as well. So dollar inside A, which gets the value, and plus dollar value of B colon A plus B, so that when you read the output, it will be more clear. So 10 plus 5 equal to 15. Okay, so run this again. So this is a function called add and which is accepting two parameters. This is how we write functions with parameters. And now we will see a function which returns some value. What does that mean? So first I will comment this out. So what is happening in this? So we are accepting two parameters, two numbers, and doing some computation and printing inside the method. And once this is done, we don't have any knowledge of the value which is actually computed inside that method. But now we have a requirement, the value which is computed inside that method to be brought out of that method, and we need to use that in some other area of the program or application. So for that, we should get some value from that function. For that, we use return statement inside the function so that the function returns that value, and we will use that outside the function. We will see how to do that. So we are talking about function will be returning some value. So we need to consider, or we need to remember two things here. One is what it is actually returning, the value it is returning, and the type of the value it is returning. So whenever you are declaring a new function, I will write if in this case to subtract two numbers. A is a number and B is also a number, and this is how we actually return a function earlier. Now instead of printing the value after computing, now what I do is I will add a statement called return A minus B. So now we don't have any errors, but to make sure the function operates and returns the proper data types, always add the data type of the return value as well. In this case, it is number, right? So that if we try to return a string from this method which is not valued for difference operation, then it will give an error. So make sure always give the data type of the return value as well. So two things while learning about functions with return types is the return type and the return statement. So now what happens is when this diff is called with two values like 10 comma 5 again, these numbers are passed to diff method and the computation will be done, and the result of a minus will be returned from diff to the place where it is called from, line number 26. Okay, so now we got the value after computation which is 5 to the 26th line, but we did not capture that anywhere. Okay, so in your application, you want to use that value further. That is why you are using the return statements in the functions. So you have to capture that value. How we'll do that? We assign that to some variable, maybe C. Okay, so this is how we write the functions with return type and we call those and saves the return value in some variables. And now if you want, you can simply console dot log and see. You can see the difference of 10 comma 5 in the output. See, 5 is printed, and if you pass this with 20 comma 3 and run this again, now you will see 17 on the console. Okay, so you are passing parameters to the function and returning some values from the function. In the next video, we will see about optional parameters and default parameters. Thank you for watching, and please don't forget to like and subscribe.